Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime.
Hi, Dana.
Hello, Neale.
Hi, Neil. How you doing?
Well, let's see. Temperature. Pulse is okay. Well, no, my pulse goes up when I see Dana on the screen.
Naturally.
That's why I invited her. She dresses up the show really nicely.
Yep, How can I serve you?
Oh, we're so excited. I'm so excited.
Neil, we've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I know you hear that a lot. I don't know that you remember, but you and I have interviewed several times.
Oh, yeah, I recall they were among the worst interviews of my life.
I was afraid you were going to do that.
Love it.
But you are extraordinarily talented, young man, and we are really looking forward to talking to you. This is a gift that I'm giving to my friend Dana because somewhere I heard someplace that if you want true happiness, then you give it, or if you want something, then you give it to somebody else, and then you can have it as well. I think that was in a book called Conversations with God, number book 1 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful principle of life. So what you want to receive, give away.
That's it. That's it. We're all ready. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I'm cool. Let's go.
Okay. So this is just to give you the background, what I'll do is I'm going to edit this and I'll put on the opening and the closing and all of this. This is just going to be the meat of the podcast or the meat.
Got it. Smart way to do it.
And then that way we can play with it and stuff. But I'm looking forward to it. So I'll just kick it off and we'll be on and we'll go for it. Okay.
Great. I'm all set.
Well, you're the professional. I'm just a rank amateur. Wrong language. You'll have to. Okay. So, Dana, are you ready to begin, young lady?
I am.
Oh, very good. And Neil, again, I just want to thank you for being here.
It's lovely to be here with you, Kevin.
All right, everybody ready? And
we're all set.
Okay. And welcome to the show, everybody. I got to tell you, I am just so excited. It's not very often. Well, and I take that back. I meet a lot of really, really cool people, but I haven't met very many cool people who built the foundation and really the foundation for a lot of what we talk about these days. And it started way back in like 94, 95. And this is like 30 years in that this gentleman's been doing what he's doing. And you can see him right there. But before I go there, I have to introduce Dana Parker, who is a co-host with us on Friday. And this has been a long time in coming for you. And and tell the story real quick of how you ran across Neale's books.
Yes, this has been a long time coming, and I'm thrilled to be here. This actually was a heart's desire I put out several years ago in my own. I grew up in a really strict religious structure and had a very interesting dynamic and view of God as a man who sits on a granite throne and very cold. And as I was deconstructing that experience, a good friend shared Neale's writings with me, and I just knew I had to listen to all of it. And as I deconstructed personally, I reconstructed as I listened to the books, and they changed my view and my connection to God in a way that I'll never forget. And in those times of reading the book, I looked up Neale and I researched. I was wondering if you had any live events, because I just had this heart's desire to just hopefully maybe one day I could meet you and tell you thank you so much for being brave enough to put this out there, because in 2016 it changed my life and helped me reconstruct my spirituality in a way that felt liberating and so true to my heart and my soul. So thank you, God, for answering this moment. And I'm so deeply honored to be here and to be sitting with you. And it was such a surprise, so fun that I just put it out there and then it just came so quickly and randomly. So thank you, Kevin, for this opportunity too.
Oh, you're welcome, and don't anybody worry. This is a regular occurrence when Dana's on.
Yes,
She gets emotional, and she has tissues, so we're
I
good.
do.
Good. Would you like to introduce our guest, our very special guest today?
Yes, I would love to. Neale Donald Walsch is a modern day spiritual messenger whose words continue to touch the world in profound ways. With an early interest in religion and a deep felt connection to spirituality, Neale spent the majority of his life thriving professionally, yet searching for spiritual meaning before experiencing his own now famous Conversations with God. The Conversations with God series of books that emerged from those encounters has been translated into 37 languages, touching millions and inspiring important changes in their day-to-day lives. Neale, I'm so happy to have you here. And we're excited to talk about your new book coming forth and your journey. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, Dana, those are very sweet words to say, and I'm deeply humbled and very grateful, sincerely, to know that anything that I may have done has touched your life in a positive and beneficial way. So thank you for the kindness of sharing that with me. How may I serve the moment?
Yes, I would love to just share with the listeners a little bit about just a little bit about your story. How have you before Conversations with God, how did this come about for you? When did this begin? And just briefly, because I know you've told this story so many times, and we really want to focus in on the new book and new emerging things coming out in your work.
Well, I was just going through a very rough period of time in my life, Dana, where nothing was falling into place. My relationship, in fact, was falling apart. 5 days after my wife and I amicably agreed that we were just not making it, so we decided to separate, which was a sad moment in my life. But then 5 days later, I lost my job. The corporation that I worked for was downsizing, and I was the last person they had hired. So I had no seniority, last person in, first person out. So now I lost my relationship and lost my job in the same 5 day period. But wait, the world wasn't done with me yet. I'm on the way to an appointment. I'm on the way to a job interview, and I'm certain I'm going to get the job because I've got all the qualifications, plus a great recommendation from the corporation that let me go. They said how much they'd hated to lose me. So I know I'm going to get this new job. Nothing to worry about, right? No, an older man makes a left turn in front of me as I'm driving down the road, and he crashes into me, and it wasn't a fender bender. He totaled my car. But to make matters worse, I suffered a broken neck. And it wasn't a hairline fracture. It was a 3/4 inch avulsion fracture of the 7th cervical vertebrae posteriorly. In other words, a break in my neck large enough to put a pencil through. When I woke up on the operating table, the doctor said to me, people who suffer this kind of an injury more often than not die on the spot because of spinal cord complication, nerve center, the whole thing. It's a very sensitive area of your body. But you survived. Now, not only did you survive it, but those few who do survive, inevitably at least, are paralyzed from the neck down. You have avoided either consequence. It makes you a 1 in a million miracle. Now he leans over the table that I'm lying on and he says, "So what are you going to do with the rest of your life?" And I'm like, he said, "Because you've been given an incredible gift." a start over. This is called a start over. And I thought, oh my gosh, but I couldn't find a job anywhere. They outfitted me, Dana, with what's called a Philadelphia collar. It's a plastic device and it holds your head up. I mean, the doctor said to me, you will not take this collar off for any reason because picture a bowling ball on the head of a pin. There's nothing holding your head up except for this device. So you will not take it off. I don't care if you're taking a shower. I don't care if you're sleeping soundly. I don't care if you're having wild sex. You will not take this collar off for any reason whatsoever until we, tell you. So of course I had to wear it for about a year and a half until my neck fused again. Because they could have gone in and they didn't want to do surgery because it was a very delicate area. But they said the body will take care of it in about a year and a half. Sure enough. But here's the deal, Dana. Nobody would hire me. I'd walk into a job interview and they would not give me the job. Finally, the seventh guy who interviewed me said, Mr. Walsch, I got to be square with you. We'd hire you in a minute if you weren't wearing that thing around your neck. But obviously, you have a therapeutic device on your neck. And he said, one wrong move on the job for us, and we're paying your medical bills for the next 5 years. We can't afford to hire you unless you come to us, not disabled in the way you are, but at least, healthy and ready to go to work. So without any risk on our part. So I couldn't get a job anywhere. Pretty soon I ran out of money. And my landlord invited me to leave. He actually evicted me, gave me 30 days.
Nicest way to put that.
No, I had nowhere to go. I'm living on the sidewalk. I thought, well, okay, I can do this for a couple of weeks. It lasted a year. I wound up being a street person for a year of my life, Dana, going from person to person on the sidewalk, asking for a handout, holding my hand out, please, even a quarter, even a $50. And I recall one guy said to me, oh, come on, a quarter. I said, sir, if everybody I asked today gave me a quarter, I could have something to eat by 5 o'clock. Please, whatever you've got in pocket change. But you really lost your dignity, Dana. When you've lost your dignity, when you have no place to even use the bathroom. You got to sneak into a McDonald's and hope that the manager doesn't see you because he can smell you. You haven't had a shower in 5 weeks.
Right.
And you're wearing the same clothes, wrinkled. I mean, you're obviously living on the sidewalk. And the manager would come up to you and say, no, come on, no, out. I said, no, please. He'd say, you're just going to pay. We don't want anybody panhandling, the customers. And I said, I won't. I promise I won't. I swear to God, I need to use the toilet, please. I have nowhere else. He said, all right, here's the deal. In and out. Is it a deal? I said, yes, sir. He said, you promise me you keep your word and you can come in here and use the bathroom whenever you need to. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I had a place to. So that went on for a year of my life.
Wow.
Finally, I got a little job, a little weekend job. I couldn't get a full-time job yet, but I got a weekend job. I was a weekend fill-in to cover somebody's shift who didn't want to work 7 days a week. So I'm working 2 days a week, making just enough bucks to get a little apartment. I got a little one-room flat above somebody's garage. They had turned their garage top into a little part. Fair enough. I was out of the weather, and it actually had a bathroom. And to me, that was luxury. But I woke up one morning after being there about 3 or 4 weeks. And this is when it began for me, Dana, because I was furious.
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night. It's 4:30 in the morning. And my mind is filled with anger. And I'm thinking, okay, God, because I always thought there was something going on. There was a higher power that I called God. My upbringing taught me that there's more going on here than meets the eye. But I'm waking up at 4:30 and my mind is going, okay, God, what does it take to make life work? And what have I done? Am I so horrible as a person that I deserve a life of such continuing struggle? Tell me the rules. I'll play this silly game. Just give me the rule book. I don't know how it goes. How does the game go?
Yeah.
God said, Neale, pick up a pen and write this down. I had a yellow legal pad in front of me, but writing my grocery lists out and such. And so I picked up the tablet and I started getting answers to all of my questions. And I wrote them down. And the answers brought other questions, which brought other answers. And before I knew it, I was involved in a Q&A, kind of a question and answer session, with this voice, this source that I really experienced as coming from the divine.
Yeah.
And but I didn't do it. I never even imagined. I wasn't trying to write a book. I was having a very private, middle of the night experience, Dana.
Yeah.
But about, I don't know, what turned out to be 15 or 20 pages into the dialogue, I'm told, you will make of this one day a book, and you will cause it to be accessed by many people. And you know what I thought, Dana? I thought, now I gotcha. Because if this is really that's not going to happen. I mean, the real world, no publisher, no legitimate, I could get it self-published, but no legitimate publisher is going to publish a book by a guy because he claims God is talking directly to him. I mean, come on. It's not going to happen. So, either this is my imagination, but if it really is God, then you can make the impossible happen. We'll see about that. So I actually sent my notes. I Xeroxed my handwritten notes and sent them off to a couple of small publishers just to see what would happen.
Wow.
Dana, a week and a half or 2 weeks later, my phone rings. And the guy says, Mr. Walsch, we want to publish this stuff. We want to put this book out. This is a great, great piece of literature. I said, are you kidding me? Really? He said, it's one of the best fiction books we've seen in a long time. I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. This is not a book of fiction. I'm not going to let you publish it as a fiction book. And the publisher says on the phone, are you trying to tell me this actually happened in real life? I said, yeah. He said, well, we could put it out as a nonfiction book, but it's going to be not going to sell well. I mean, people are going to be pushed back by a guy who, I mean, literally, legitimately claims nonfiction-wise to be talking to God, and God's talking directly to him. It's not going to be. It would have really taken off as a fiction book about a guy who's having an argument with God, but not in real life. So we'll be lucky if we sell 500 copies, but we'll put it out, just to see. And you know what? He was right. He was right on. The book did not sell 500 copies. Sold 5 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 37 languages.
Yeah.
So we're all sitting back, the publisher, myself, we're all going, what is going on here? What has happened? But apparently what happened is that many people related to my experience, asking the same kinds of questions.
Yes.
What does it take to make life work? What's going on? What have I done to deserve a life of endless struggle?
Yeah.
Somebody tell me the rules. So the book really took off in a way that no one could possibly have expected. And
Yeah.
pretty soon, and the small publisher that I sent it to sold it to a major publisher that came to them after the book hit the bestseller list. And by the way, I'm not bragging, just saying, it hit the bestseller list 5 weeks after it was published.
Wow.
That's what they call a literary phenomena.
Yes.
So
Yes.
again, I'm not bragging about it. I'm just sitting back looking at, my goodness, what's going on here? And then we start getting calls from the major publishers, Random House, Putnam, the world's larger publishers saying, well, we'd like to buy this book. Do you have any more? Do you have any sisters like that at home? I said, yeah, I mean, I've continued the experience, if that's what you're asking. And the guy at Putnam says, actually it was a lady. The lady at Putnam says, send us anything you've got.
Wow.
I said, well, okay. And so they bought book one, what became book one, from the small publisher on the East Coast, Hampton Roads. And then they put out books 2 and 3. And since then, we've had 9 altogether books in the Conversations with God series. And then I thought, okay, enough. That's enough. I mean, this could go on for the rest of my life, but I don't need to flood the marketplace with this material. So we brought an end to it after 9 books. That is, we brought an end to the dialogue. I've written some supplementary books, but the dialogue books came to an end after nine books. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
It's a beautiful story.
It's an incredible story. And for our listeners, I just want to highlight some really magnificent things because sometimes in this world of spirituality, we get this idea that we have to have everything aligned and we have to believe and will something to a way. But Neale is teaching us something here that's so profound that your action, even if you don't fully believe, inspired action, miracles can happen and take place. Miracles, things that you never even imagined possible. And that is the inspiration from this story that I find so profound is your action, perfection's not required. It's just a surrender of, okay, let's see what happens. Let's put this out there. And that's one of my favorite parts about this story. I mean, there's so many elements that are so wonderful and relatable to everyone listening. The human experience and going through the dark night of the soul or these depths and then coming out and finding this wisdom. This is the human experience that we all can relate to in one way or another. And so it's
And
such an inspired story.
Dana, the second trick is to not only forge ahead, as you suggested, but to require and expect or demand of yourself no particular outcome.
Oh,
That's what I learned. It's like, you know what? I just divorce myself from any need for a particular result. Just let it be whatever it is, the biggest flop of the century or the biggest hit of the century, but don't require any particular outcome. And I've learned, by the way, to apply that to everything in my life, my relationships, you know, how anything I'm doing is turning out. I've dropped my expectations of life and I've dropped my requirements of life. And that
mm,
has allowed me to simply embrace whatever is showing up with gratitude. Now, here's what's interesting. Last state, I don't want to get into a sermon here, but my last statement. When you embrace whatever is showing up with gratitude, the very energy of gratitude projected into the experience that's showing up alters the experience because all of life is energy. So the energy you're putting into as a response to what's coming at you changes what's coming at you sufficiently to make it something you would be grateful for in any event. This is what I've discovered. Gratitude is the attitude, even for negative events or events that I would have thought would be unwelcome in my life.
yeah.
Well, I think everybody, at least I did. I had what I call my bad country music song period, where everything was going wrong, and it was like my dad died, my dog died, my wife left, I lost my house, Claire Bank, all that stuff. But I recovered from it. But I wanted to make this point because uh, Dana said to me before we began, I said, "Well, Neale's told his story so much. I want to get into more in-depth things and stuff." And she said, "Well, there are a lot of people who haven't heard his story." Then it dawned on me. You wrote these books and Conversation One, which, by the way, was on the bestseller list for 137 weeks, which is very rare. And so, but that was written 40 years ago,
Yeah.
or 30 years ago. And so, if you're under 40, you may not have any idea where Conversation with God came from. And when it was, you brought it forth in the dialogue with God in 95, people were not as sophisticated energetically or emotionally. And most people said, he says he's talking to God. He's nuts. And the fact of the matter was, it took a great deal of intestinal fortitude for you to even bring that forth because you knew that what some people's reaction was. I heard you on an interview on Cairo a couple of years later, and the host was like, he was a strong Catholic, and he was like, "What do you mean there's no hell?" And so, and there was a whole line of, but you were beyond his understanding of life and how it works, and you've done such an incredible job of that. And but we want to help take your work, which is foundational to everything that we do, We want to help you take your work to this next generation that's under 40 because
Well,
they need it as badly as anybody else does.
But Kevin, with respect, let me just gently disagree with one thing you said there.
You may.
It did not take any fortitude or courage on my part whatsoever. I mean, none. Because, again, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't require a particular outcome, and I
mm,
didn't feel battered by opposing points of view. You're right. I recall the interview that you're referring to very well. And he was a practicing Catholic, and God bless him. He has his point of view. And I honor people who have the strength and the courage to stick with their point of view in the face of opposing points of view, as long as we can find a way to disagree agreeably. But it didn't require me to have any kind of courage or fortitude because I wasn't invested in the outcome, nor did I require no one to disagree with me. And
mm,
you're perfectly right, Kevin. I did expect people to disagree with me, and I knew it would happen, but I thought, okay, fair enough. So they'll disagree with me. So as long as they're not going to, do so disagreeably, and
yeah.
if we can have a, reasonably adult conversation about it, then if the least, as I said to that guy, I recall the interview very well. I said to this guy, you know what? If my writing this book has done nothing but move you closer into your firm belief in what you believe is so, then I've served a purpose. The purpose of all great art, whatever it is to get you in touch with your own deepest truth. If that's all I've done, can we agree that the book served you in that way? And he said, you know what? Interesting point of view. I'll go with that. I can go with that.
It was beautiful. It really was.
I love that. And I think that's such a unique experience that you had. And for those people out there that are maybe experiencing like this deep call to put something out there or to share a work or to share something that's their heart's desire, but they feel that attachment to it. What would you say to them? What is a recommendation? What are some possibilities to help maybe release those grips so that they can have that courage just to say, okay, I
Doesn't take courage. It doesn't take courage. I would say to them, detach, just detachment. And you know what, my dear Dana, all of the great spiritual teachers, I'm not one of them, but I look at them and I hear from them. And I've read their works lately, over the past 30 years. I've caused myself to look at what people were saying from hundreds and thousands of years ago to this present time. And all of those great spiritual teachers have said the same thing. Detach,
mm,
detachment. So let yourself stand back from and let go of any need for a particular result. And let whatever is going to occur, let it occur. And don't require anything from life other than what life is organically presenting. So that you can't sing your song if you're, and you know what? I love Barbara Streisand. She's one of my favorite people. And she once said, I couldn't sing a note if I was afraid. I mean, in the early days, especially, obviously, if I was afraid that somebody wouldn't like what I was doing and how I was handling the song. So I had to let go of my need for the audience to like what I'm doing.
mm,
I simply had to like what I'm doing. And here's a great secret. The great secret is true performers, true artists, true writers, or anybody, if you're a plumber, if you're repairing streets in Oklahoma, or whatever you're doing, if you're doing what you're doing because it brings you pleasure, because it causes you to feel, this is an opportunity for me to apply my skills. Let me share with you a brief example, if I could, Dana, at the risk of going on too much. But I recall about 6 or 8 years ago, we had some plumbing problems in my house. Under the sink, it started to leak. So we called a plumber. He came over and he got under that sink and he was rattling around, and doing what plumbers do and grabbing stuff. But he was whistling. He was obviously in a very good mood. And I finally said to him, "You're kind of a good mood. You like what you're doing?" He said, "Oh, I love it." I said, "You love what you're doing? You love being a plumber?" He said, "You know what? I have the skill. I learned how to do this. And there's nothing that makes me happier than helping other people with a problem that they can't do anything about. It's a great way to earn a living,
Mhm.
helping other people with a problem they can't do anything about." I said, "Man, you are teaching me. You are a teacher." So, I wanted to write a book called My Plumber is a Teacher, but he wouldn't let me. But this is an example of what I mean. So I finally came to the understanding that when we do whatever we do because it pleases us, because it gives us a chance to express an aspect of who we are, then whether someone else agrees with our expression becomes irrelevant. It's like making love. It's like having sex.
Yeah.
I mean, everything really is SEX, synergistic energy exchange. If you're worried about whether the other person is going to approve of every move you make, you might as well get out of the bedroom. It's not going to happen.
It's true.
I know it's true. Everything I say is true.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I did want to ask you this though, because Neale, I know that you sold 5 million books. Number two and number three were also on the New York Times bestseller list. You, and whenever I bring up your name, like all this last week and the week before, I said, I get to interview Neale Donald Walsch. And the response that I got was, oh man, that's really cool. Congratulations. That's great. But so you are, in the eyes of very many people, a great spiritual teacher. Now, that may have been you're a great spiritual dictation taker because
Bingo, bingo. Thank you.
because all the information came from what I believe and understand to be God, and that you were open enough, and your mind was open enough to accept that for what it was, and so you were able to write it down and ask great questions that you then receive great answers for, and for that you, if nothing else, that's what you should be. And I know you were a talk show host on the radio for a number of years and stuff like that. So you're very gifted at what you do. But you take great dictation. I will say that.
I not only received answers from that source fluidly and without my making anything up along the way, but Kevin, six out of 10 answers were answers I did not expect. I mean, they shocked me. Honestly, I can recall writing on the yellow legal pad and almost dropping the pen like, are you kidding me?
Right? You and me both, Neale. You and me both.
Like
Those
when God said,
answers.
When God said, Neale, there's no such thing as right and wrong. I'm like, what? And then she said later on, Neale, there's no such thing as the Ten Commandments. What? What are you telling me? So, and many other statements that were made as well that really shocked the hell out of me. That I mean, shocked the hell right out of me.
Literally.
And by the way, if you have an opportunity, go read the passage about it's not the Ten Commandments, it's the Ten Commitments.
Oh,
That was a
life changing.
powerful piece. You should, if you choose to, that would be a great place to begin, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a minister from New Jersey call me. I'm sorry, from New Hampshire, call me a couple of years after the book came out, and he got my phone number from the publisher, which we asked the publisher not to do anymore, not to give out my private phone number. But in those days, things were different. And so the phone rings, and it's this guy. He said, my name is, whatever he was. He said, I'm the pastor of a church in New Hampshire. I thought, oh, okay, I'm in big trouble now. He's going to give me a piece of his mind. He said, you know what? I called you to compliment you. He said, I can't say that I agree with very much of what's in your book. But if nothing else, you have started conversations about God that we have had in this church more of in the past 6 months than ever before in my tenure here as pastor. You've really got the conversation about God going again. People are discussing, could you be right? Could you be wrong? Does this make any sense? You brought the subject up and made it popular once more. So he said, I got to tell you, thank you for that.
Wow.
And I have to ask you, and we need to get into talking about the new book
Yes.
because I'm excited about it. And Dana spent 6 hours going from here to Idaho and had the audio book and listened to the whole thing and stuff. And but I wanted to ask you one of my favorite things that you did that I found out about. See, I found about you about 2002. That's when I was looking for why am I really here and what am I here to do. It ended up being who knows? It ended up being this. But anyway, um, I had a friend. He's from New Jersey. And in New Jersey, the be do have scenario. So I was trying to explain to him. See, it's not like you got to do. It's got to be. You got to be, and you got. And so I really screwed it up and couldn't express it the way that it needs to be expressed. And his attitude was, "No, man, you got to do stuff. You can't do it. You can't just be stuff. You got to go do stuff because if you don't do it, nothing will happen." And I said, "But that's not how it works." So could you just briefly go over the be do have scenario?
I'd be happy to, Kevin. When I was a young man, I thought how life worked was when I have enough time, I can do the thing called go to college and I can get a degree and I can be the thing called you're prepared to get a good job or maybe happy in life. When I have enough money, I can do the thing called buy a house and I can be the thing called secure, you know. And so I thought that's how life worked from my observation. You have what you need to have, then you can do what you need to do in order to be what you want to be, happy, secure, whatever it is that you're looking to be. But God said to me in CWG, she said, Neale, it's the other way around. You've got it backward. The opportunity here is for you to start where you are trying to end up. And don't use what you're doing as a means of becoming something. Use what you're doing as a means of demonstrating what you already are.
Mm.
Then you will have what all people who are that have. I said, can you help me understand? And God said, sure. It goes like this. Decide to be something, to be happy, to be secure, to be understanding, to be compassionate, whatever it is you want to demonstrate in any particular moment, or for that matter, globally in your life. Decide that you're going to be that first. Then do only those things that a person who is being that would do. And then you'll discover that you have all the things that a person who is being that has. Turn the whole scenario of life around, Neale, and create what I was told was the be, do, have paradigm. So I decided to be happy. And then I started to do things that a happy person does. And I got to have the things that a happy person has. More strategically, I decided to be secure, to just embrace the state of being secure in my life. Then I wound up doing the things that a secure person would do, as opposed to I used to do things that an insecure person did. But when I adopted a state of being first, I got to do those things that a person who's secure does. Then I got to have those things that a person who is secure has. Guys, Kevin, that changed my entire life. That little trick. But I did have to, not to go on forever, but I have to say quickly, I did say to God, but how can I be something by just saying I am that? I mean, if I don't have the things I need to have in order to be something, how can I say that I'm secure if I don't feel secure? And God said, you don't understand. Feeling comes after declaration, not before. You don't declare yourself to be secure because you have all you think you need to be secure. You declare yourself to be secure because you already are. Then
Yeah.
you wind up having. So I thought, well, how can that work? But God said, try it. Don't believe me, just try it. And
Experience it.
yeah. And so I did in my life, and by gosh and by golly, a new formula for life. So, guys, it's the be, do, have paradigm.
I love
That's
that.
why we're called human beings, not human havings.
Yes. I love this. I love this. And one of the things that I've noticed in this process, because I have been putting into practice this habit, is in any moment we actually can ask the divine, show me, what does security feel like in my body? What is what does that being feel like? And for me, it puts a distinct feeling inside my body. And sometimes it can take a little bit of time for me to maybe recall a memory or for the divine to show me an experience. But putting that out there and saying, okay, I want to know what that feels like. And knowing that in my body, then I can know, like, for example, with money, this is one of my practices. I became a single mom in the last couple of years. And so I've been practicing, what does real infinite prosperity feel like? Like divine prosperity. And cultivating that and memorizing that feeling so well that I know when I'm not in it and I know when I'm in it. And then acting from that place, acting from that space inside of you. That practice has changed me. And in fact, I listened to one of your Gaia channel interviews this last week and was reminded of this and began really focusing in again, practicing. But I love that. I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful way to evolve.
When you decide to be something in particular, let's use the one you chose, security. When you decide to be secure without necessarily having any particular conditions that you imagine create that, but you decide to be secure, then in my life, at least, here's how it affected my life. I decided to roll the big dice. I rolled the big dice. And for instance, as an example, I married my wife after knowing her a week.
That's the big dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew each other for a week. We're driving along in the car. We're going to a date. It was our third date in a week, and we were going to the theater because we discovered we both loved the theater. On the way to the theater, this lady turns to me in the front seat of the car and says, I think we should be married. And I looked at her and I said, you don't want to say that to me twice. She said, no, I'm serious. I think we should be married. We get along. We love the same food. We've had dinner. We like the same music. We're going to the theater because we both love the theater. We obviously read the same books. She said, and we're good in other ways. So she said, I really think we should be married. I reached out my hand across the front seat of the car. This is a woman I've known for 7 days. I reached out a hand in the front seat of the car and I said, done. We flew to Las Vegas 2 days later. We can get a marriage license in 1 hour, went to a wedding chapel, came out as man and wife. That was 16 years ago.
That's big dice right there.
But you rolled the big dice because you already are secure, and your security doesn't depend on certain things occurring.
Right.
You are secure because you declare yourself to be secure.
Yes.
Neale, one more thing I want to add, and then we need to concentrate on the new book because there's some great information there that a lot of people can benefit from. But I want to thank, and I do this on a regular basis, I thank God for giving you the message that we are all one. The understanding of which, if I'm paraphrasing, but the understanding of which could change everything, of all the things that we have going on. And if we understood that we were all one and we're the same energy and we belong to each other and we depend upon each other. And I was reading Conversations with God in 2002, and I was reading along just da-da-da-da-da and said, we are all one. And I stopped. And I closed the book and I said, dang, if that was a common philosophy among everyone, there would be no reason to have wars anymore. There would be no reason to have starvation. We would take care of each other. And so I want to thank God to bring that through you because it's an important message in my world.
I couldn't agree with you more, Kevin. The answer to the world's problems is to end our concept of separation. There is nothing that's separate from anything else. All things are one thing. There is only one thing. And all things are part of the one thing there is. And we call that one thing the higher power. We are all united as part of the same singular essential essence of life that we call divinity. So that doesn't mean that we are the same. We are individual, but we are all one. And I said to God, I don't understand. How can that be true? How can I be all one and still be individual? God said, Neale, it's very simple. Hold up your hand. I said, okay, whatever. God said, now, do you have individual fingers? I said, yeah. God said, are they really truly individual? I said, yeah, they all look different and they have different functions. God said, great. But are they separate? I said, well, they're part of the same hand. God said, so they're not separate from each other. They're all part of the same hand. I said, yeah, that's an interesting illustration. And she said, Neale, you are all fingers on the hands of God. Voila. So obviously, as you just said, Kevin, we start taking care of each other. And once we understand that we are all one, we couldn't possibly allow 653 children to die on this planet of starvation every hour, while we throw away more than enough food in the restaurants of Tokyo and Los Angeles in an evening than it would take to feed an entire third world village of children for a week. Ladies and gentlemen, wake up.
You know, and you learned that personally when you were homeless and found that certain dumpsters in certain grocery stores was almost like a buffet that you could go to because it might be a day past the pull date or whatever, and it just went right into the trash. They didn't give it away. They didn't do anything with it. They just threw it away.
That's exactly right. That's exactly my experience. You described it perfectly. And so all we have to do, guys, ladies and gentlemen, is wake up. Wake up to who we are and then begin to act that way. Stop pretending that we're separate from each other.
I love that. And I think that's a great segue into the book because the book is it's one of my favorite things about your new book, God Talk, is there's so many unique perspectives of how God is experienced. And I think that it shows and it's a witness to this beautiful experience that we all have such unique opportunities to connect with the divine. And there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. And so I want to talk a little bit about your book, Neale, and talk about how did this book come to be for you? And what was the process in which this came? And what are the elements that feel most important to share for those that are considering listening or reading the book?
Well, most authors write books, as I did for my first 40. They write a book, then they try to find a publisher. But in this case, for the first time in my life, my phone rang and a publisher called me out of the blue. And I said, "Hi, how can I help you?" And she said, "Look, we publish self-help books. Would you be willing to write a book for us on how people can have their own experience of the divine, how people can have their own conversation with God?" I said, "I'd be happy to write a book that could offer them, my ideas about that. I'm not sure there's no guarantee," but she said, no, just write, how your process went. I said, okay, so I will do that. And I did, but then they did something very clever. The publisher called me and he said, "We have put an invitation out on the internet asking people if they think they've ever had a divine intervention in their life to send us their story." And she said, "We received hundreds of stories from people all over the world on the internet. They sent it to us." So they took the 7 or 8, maybe it was 9 of the best stories that they received and put it into the book to make the point that this isn't just about one guy in Oregon who's, somehow been blessed with a conversation with an intervention by God, that people are experiencing this all over the world. But some people call it something else. So the point that we make in the book, among other points, is that God is talking to all of us all the time. But most people don't want to call it that because they don't want to be marginalized or ridiculed, or for that matter, punished for their point of view. Because religions tell us that, if you say that God is talking directly to you and through you, you're committing blasphemy. Many religions would say that outright to you and seek to punish you or tell you you will be punished by God for that.
Mm.
So, we wound up helping people understand that what happens is that people don't call it conversations with God for all those reasons I just gave you. They call it women's intuition, a psychic, a psychic hit, an epiphany, a
Download.
stroke of genius, a sudden idea, whatever words they can get away with to describe the exact same experience of having information come to us for no apparent reason and bring us information that we didn't have clearly in our mind before.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
really quite simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And more than ever, I really do feel that with the internet, and you can search up and Google anything and find conflicting logic. I think that our world is really demanding of us a connection to clarify our truth, to clarify for us in our own lives. And I think more than ever, people are looking for that connection. And my favorite thing about your books, and I know they were written in the 90s, it's incredible. They are more applicable than ever. There's a mass exodus of people from really strict religion. There are people getting paid to study why people are leaving religions, because there's so many people leaving right now. And so your books are, to me, just such a profound way to keep spirituality if maybe you've had some wounds around spirituality, which I know for me, coming from a really religious background and surrounded by a lot of people who are recovering from that religion, they're looking for, how do I reconstruct? What are the possibilities?
Let me
And
make a point here, Dana. Forgive the interruption, but I want to make a
I
point
love it.
because I don't want people to think that I'm anti-religion.
No, no, no. Right.
I want to make a point, and I say this sincerely. The religions of the world have brought great, great insight and wisdom to humanity, or they wouldn't have lasted for hundreds and thousands of years the way they have.
It's true.
So I know it's true. Everything I say is true. But religion, just kidding. But religions have brought great wisdom to the world.
Thank you.
But here's the point I make about religions. If we think that that's all there is to know on the subject, that there's no more information that could help us. See, I go around the world asking a single question. Is it possible, just possible, that there's something we don't fully understand here about God, about life, and for that matter, about ourselves,
Yeah.
the understanding of which would change everything. So what the point I make about religions is that they bring us great wisdom, but they don't have the complete story. So we are like, well, to use an aphorism or to use a metaphor, metaphorically, we're like children who have learned how to add and subtract.
Mhm.
And we think that's all there is to mathematics because we've got the basics, adding and subtracting. But hello, there's multiplication, there's long division, there's algebra, there's geometry, there's higher math. There's much more to the story than you have imagined. So religions have brought us the basics and wonderful wisdom, but there's more to the story.
Yeah.
Or as Bill said, and Bill put it perfectly, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Mm,
That'd be William Shakespeare.
I love that.
One of my favorites. Neale Donald Walsch, I got to tell you, if somebody wants to get a hold of you and somebody wants to email you or to talk to you about anything at all, how do they get a hold of you?
They just go to cwgconnect.com. If they want to be connected to me or this material, they get on the internet and go cwgconnect.com. At that platform, they will find a little a secondary place called Ask Neale. They click on Ask Neale, and they can interact with me personally. I'm there 3 times a day. And people can ask me any question they want to ask me about any material in Conversations with God. And I respond to them directly and personally. So that's and of course, alternatively, they can also go to my Facebook page. We have, again, not bragging, just the way it worked out. We have over 850,000 followers, coming up to about 1 million followers on our Facebook page. And people meet me there every day as well. I check in morning, noon, and night on Facebook, and they write me questions, and we have conversations back and forth. So I'm not difficult to connect with if people truly want to do that. In addition, we do regular events here and there on the internet. We do a monthly retreat online, a 6-hour program once a month, and other programs, which we let people know about. So I'm happy to stay accessible and available to anyone who feels that they might benefit in some small way from interacting with me.
Do you kind of feel that it's kind of your responsibility now to continue this work and to bring it forth? Because I don't know if you've noticed, sir, but the world needs this message more today than it has in a long time.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't feel a responsibility. That feels like a heavy obligation. But I do feel an invitation, and it's one of those invitations that's almost compelling. It's a compelling invitation. My wife knows all about compelling invitations. She can just look at me and just wink at me across the living room, a wink of her left eye, and I know I see a compelling invitation. So I think this is a compelling invitation, not an obligation, but an invitation. And I will not miss a chance to share this message with as many people as I possibly can. I refuse to miss an opportunity because I noticed the change that it made in my life and frankly in the lives of other people who've sent me messages through the years saying, Dana, I don't want to, diminish what you told me, but I've probably had 500 people tell me, Neale, these books have changed my life.
Yeah.
And when you hear that over and over and over again, you realize, okay, I got it. I'm going to accept the invitation to share this message whenever and wherever I can.
Yeah. It doesn't diminish. It actually, when you say how this came through and how this whole process, I feel it was for me. I feel that. And it was for everyone that gets to and has an opportunity to read your works. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Dana, both of you, Kevin. I'm grateful if anyone feels that they've benefited in some small way from something that I may have done. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening, if you're curious, if you're curious about how maybe you could interact more with the divine, how you could have your own personal experiences and all the possibilities, we highly recommend God Talk. There are so many possibilities in there to explore, to look at. There's tools. It's such an incredible book of diversity of experiences
I
that
offer a
I
six-step process in that book, Dana. There's a 6-step process that's too deep to go into here, but we offer that process and tell people if they take those 6 steps, they can move closer to the experience of having their own direct two-way connection with the divine. I could, of course, be wrong about all of that.
Who knows? But
I
everyone
think
gets
so.
to have the experience if they'd like to.
Nope, because you're not the only one these days that has had experiences like that, whether it be from the song that comes on the radio. I don't know how they do this, Neale, but I'll be thinking about something, and if something will be heavy on my mind, and a song that I know the lyrics to that speak exactly to what I'm worried about will show up on the radio. You know how radio works. How do they plan that out?
Well, I pay them a lot.
Yeah, it's the playlist angels, Kevin. That's what I call them, the playlist angels.
And it
Or
can
the
have
sign on the billboard as you're driving down the road, and there's 8 words on the billboard directly addressing again what you've been going through in your life. So, or the chance utterance of the couple that you overhear in a coffee shop. So God is talking to us all the time in 1,000 different ways across 100 lifetimes.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing. Or like when Dana said to me 2 weeks ago, because we were going to have somebody else on, and I had another friend that was going to co-host on that because she finds him particularly wonderful. And I said, "Do you want to be on part of that show too?" And she said, "No, that's hers." But if you ever run into or get a chance to interview Neale Donald Walsh, I'm there. So she, I said, well, I'll look into it. So I called your assistant. She's a wonderful lady. She was very kind. And we hooked up on this interview, and which allowed me to give the gift of a lifetime to Dana. And so I thank you, and I thank your assistant for that.
Yes, thank you.
Those are very sweet words to say. You're right. The lady who's worked with me, she's worked with me like 23 years now. We have long timers around me. I have a team of three people. One person handles all of my events, online and in-person events. The other person, handles all of my appointments. And the third person handles all of the financial transactions that go on in my life. So we have that three-person team. Every one of them has been with me for 23 or 25 years.
Wow.
So, you figure that maybe something is going on here. I want to take credit and say I must be doing something right, but I don't think it has anything to do with me. It has to do with, once again, the message that has come through me, and that all of us on the team have worked hard to make sure that gets out there in the world at large. And so thank you two guys for the opportunity to bring me a platform on which I can share what I shared here today. And if you ever want me back again on the program, I'm yours.
We would
I've got
love
you on tape saying that, sir.
that. We would love that.
Now, before we go, I want to honor your time, and it's time for you to be able to go. But I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience, the ones that are listening now or the ones that are in the future, anything you'd like them to know.
The most important message of Conversations with God is this. Your life is not about you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. But when you live your life in that way, you discover that in the universal sense, your life is about you for an elegant reason. There's only one of us in the
Neale Donald Walsch has been our guest. Go get Conversations with God 1, 2, and 3. Friendship with God, communion with God. There are just so many.
God Talk. Go
Yes.
grab it. God Talk. That will
And God
highly
Talk is a
recommend.
quote.
Yes, please.
And you will strengthen your own relationship with the divine. Neale
Yes.
Donald Walsh, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you both, guys. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the work you're doing in the world. God bless you both.
I accept that. Thank you. And we're done.
Cool.
Did we do okay?
Splendid, wonderful, wonderful interview. Splendid, terrific. There's only one problem that my computer screen is cracked. It's broken because I have a device on my computer. It's called a beautyometer. And if there's too much beauty coming into the signal, then it breaks. And every time we go to Dana, the thing crashes.
I know. Why do you think I had it? And she's also very, very intelligent. She's a great intuitive coach. She's my coach, as a matter of fact. So she's awesome.
Well, you're breaking my beautyometer, not just physically, but metaphysically, spiritually, and in every other way that it could possibly happen. Clearly, you are a beautiful human being, as are you, Kevin. Your intention, your purpose, your awareness is clear and obvious with everything that you say. So both of you, beautiful, beautiful human beings. So you're breaking the beautyometer, but I'll get it repaired and see if I can maybe be ready for the next program.
Well,
Oh,
I
thank
just
you.
I just want to say that in 2002, when I was going through what is this all about and why am I here and why Conversations with God Book One was an amazing revelation for me, and I don't know, you say you just dictated it. I'll take your word for it, but God spoke to me through that book, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Me
Uh,
Yep. I just took dictation, asked questions, and took down the answers.
But the interesting thing about that is that, and I know that you've said this before. I didn't bring it here, but that you said that you are a perfectly flawed human being having a wonderfully magical experience, and which is what we
Okay.
all are. And you were open to, through your experiences in life, you were open to receiving the messages that you got, and that's a big deal. You were
Um,
picked.
I'll accept that. That's exactly true. That's been my experience. I was open to it. In my case, it was desperation time. I had to be hit over the head with a 2x4 and have those three things happen to me in a 10-day period. Lost my relationship, lost my job, lost my health. But not everyone has to go through that kind of an experience. And so I thank you for saying those kind of things to me, Kevin.
You
And
know, the
thank you too.
just one more thing, because I drove a bus in Seattle for 12 years. So I was working with a lot of homeless people and a lot of people who were not very happy with themselves or their experiences of life and or their drugs and all that kind of stuff. But in Friendship with God, when those two kids came to you and you invited them to your house and you didn't know what you had to feed them, but you got into the refrigerator, you made a bunch of stuff up, and everybody ate well that night, that was a really important message for people, I think.
I remember that night so vividly, Kevin. I'm going into the bus station and there are these two kids. I mean, they were kids. If they were out of their teens, I'd be surprised, but they might have been 22 or 21. Anyway, there they were sitting there, nowhere to go, nowhere to get to where they wanted to go. Barely had enough money, maybe to afford another bus ticket. They didn't even know what was next for them. And I remember saying to them, I don't know what caused me to say it, but I walked over to them. You guys hungry? I said, man, we're starving. We don't have much money. We don't have any, we can't. I said, come on, let's go to my house. You can spend the night there. You can come back here tomorrow. We took him back. I took him to my house. My lovely wife opened the door. We put together, like you said, a meal for them. They spent the night there as our guests. We took them back to their train to the bus station the next day. Gave them each a couple of dollars. Well, more than a couple of dollars. We gave them each a little pile of money and said, "Be on your way."
Mm.
But you know what? What goes around comes around.
Mhm.
Yep, that is so true. And I think that one of these days, one of those kids is going to come up to you or is going to drop you an email and is going to say, by the way, that was the worst moment of our lives, which was followed by the
Mhm.
wonderful life that we became, and because of your generosity, we now are these incredible people doing incredible work. That's
I
kind
don't,
of how it works.
yeah, I don't like to brag about it, but you brought it up. But yeah, I was just using, just remembering a wonderful experience that we had, because again, Kevin, honestly, it wasn't what we did for them, is what we did for ourselves. When we behave in a way toward other people that demonstrate to us who we really are,
Mm.
that's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Mm.
Dana,
That's,
I'm going to leave the room now and let the two
I
of you
know.
kind of hang
Can
out for a
I,
bit.
can we get one picture though? Can we grab a picture right now? So just look at the camera and smile. Look at your camera and smile. Whoops. Hold on 1 second.
Technology.
Beautiful. Got it.
And Neale, I hope you meant that when you said that you'll come back.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course. Of course.
Love to have you back.
Yes. Thank you.
Consider it done.
Hey, thank you so much.
Okay, guys. Bye
Have
for
an
now.
awesome day, man.
Bye for
Yeah.
now.
Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.